people rather than coffee professionals. And at the heart of that distinction is the idea of ego. Ego is an interesting one. It's something that we see a lot of in our industry. But I'm glad to say that it's balanced out with a lot of people who don't show the same kind of ego. So we do have two sides of the coin. We do have people on one side that are humble and that probably too humble. They're humble, they're super generous, they show a lot of empathy, too much empathy, and they are far too self-sacrificing. That's one extreme. On the other extreme, we have people who are very self-centered. We have people who are super focused on being super famous and insta-famous. We have people who consider that their existence in whatever capacity it is important far beyond the task that they are carrying out. And so given that we have both of these paradigms that exist, I would like to talk about that today. Now, when we use the word ego, we tend to consider it a negative connotation. If someone has ego, we think that they are being self-centered and they are being obnoxious and all of the negative things that we associate with that. In fact, we all have ego, and your ego has a very important role to play in balance. I would say, and there's an argument that has been made many times in a lot of these discussions that happen, that both of the extremes that I presented to you, the one where somebody is self-sacrificing and they are too humble and too empathetic, that is another expression of ego. It is a different expression than the self-centered kind of expression of ego, but both of those positions are coming from ego. What we want to do is we want to use our ego to bring us into center. And why is this important in the coffee industry? Well, ego has its place. It has its place and it has its time. Knowing why you're doing this job is going to be an important reference point to keep you balanced and to keep your ego in check. Having an ego that works against you in the coffee industry is going to mean that people will see you as too hard work. So either you're too passive and you're too self-deprecating and too humble, etc., to the point where you don't get shit done, or you are too exuberant, too flamboyant, too in everybody's face. That's hard work too. You know, if you're standing there at the coffee machine constantly needing to take a selfie, that's hard work because you're getting in the way of productivity. Understanding time and place for where your ego needs to come forward and when it needs to step back. In everything that we do in the coffee industry, we want to come from the perspective of being of service. If you're roasting coffee, you are being of service to yourself first, and then to the other hands that have touched this coffee and that will touch this coffee. We are all here to be of service to each other. We are here to be of service to our customers, our employers, our employees, our co-workers, the supply chain, the farmers that grew the coffee, the people who brought the coffee from these origins to our cities, to our roasteries, to our cafes. We make coffee, guys. We do not fix people's brains. We do not, we don't do life-saving work, but the most important thing that we do in our jobs every single day is be presented with the opportunity to make someone's life happier. And that is the greatest gift that we can give someone. And most of the time, they won't even know it was us. Coming from the perspective of dropping the need to be front and center of anything until it's time. So there are times when it is important to be front and center. If you're called to be in a position of leadership and shit falls over, stepping forward is a moment when you need to kick that ego in, take charge, and do it in a way until the crisis is over, for lack of a better term. We're never in a moment of crisis unless somebody gets sick, someone gets hurt, someone gets electrocuted, God forbid. But there is an actual medical emergency. Yes, step up. If there is a coffee rush that's going crazy and the team is just barely holding it together, step up, take leadership, do what needs to be done, but do it in a way that shows leadership, not arrogance, not authority over everyone. Needing to be in charge of everything, that's ego. Leaders don't lead from ego. Leaders lead from compassion and assertiveness. Assertiveness being fair, clear communication. Okay? People who are egoic lead from a place of needing to be right. And this is something that we see again and again in our industry. And I'm sure we see it in other industries as well. And it exists in every industry. But this conversation and our conversations together through the Daily Coffee Pro are all about the coffee industry. I would like to call attention to that very typical thing that happens of you being given feedback about either a coffee that you roasted or a coffee that you made, and the potential hit to your ego, for lack of a better term, if you receive for lack of a better term, negative feedback. A way to combat the desire to become self-deprecating, which is another expression of ego, is to just be open to the idea that you will never be perfect. And please remember, somebody's opinion of what your coffee is and what it tastes like is their opinion, their subjective opinion. And they're welcome to it, and they're allowed to have it. And it may be right, it may be wrong. It may also just be a piece of information that you've received that's going to give you a little bit more knowing about what other people are perceiving your coffee to be. That's okay. You don't know what they've been experiencing that day. You don't know if they've had a shit day. You don't know if their biochemistry is out and their microbiome is fucking everything up in the way that they're experiencing taste. You don't know if they're riddled with candida and can't really taste anything. Are they a cigarette smoker? Are they high when they're tasting what you're giving them? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But being gracious, being humble, and remember that you're being of service to somebody in the job that you do is really important. Another thing I want to say about ego. You are not the most important person in any supply chain. If you're the barista and you seem to think that you are the most important person in the supply chain, and I hear this a lot, I'm the person who's representing the coffee. Yes, correct. That doesn't make you the most important person in the supply chain. Because without everybody that came before you, you wouldn't have that coffee to present to anybody. You are yet another set of hands amongst the many, many, many people that touch that coffee. And you should be ridiculously humbled to present this coffee to whomever is going to be drinking it. And so I invite you if you are somebody who seems to think that they are the shit hot barista, kindly step off your high horse and get in line with all of us. We are humbled to do what we do. I miss it, to be honest with you. I miss being at the bar and having the opportunity to make a coffee and watch somebody take their first sip of the day and know with confidence that that coffee is not going to bitch back at them, and see them like get a hug to their soul. And I'm extremely humbled by the fact that they chose my coffee machine every time they do that. And I miss that experience, but I've moved on to a different phase of my life, and I am extremely humbled to be able to do this. I love my job. I am of service to you. I am of service to the coffee industry. I am of service to the people who drink Elixir. I'm of service to my employees. But most of all, I am of service to myself. And the most important part of that is for me to remember to keep my ego in check, so that I'm not being self-deprecating, nor am I being overly celebratory and puff myself up for no fucking reason whatsoever. Take that humility to everything that you do. Take it to competition. For all of you awesome humans that made it to the WBC this weekend, good luck. Stay humble. Celebrate being where you, it is a huge achievement to have made it this far. And if you don't make it to, if you're not one of the winners, please, I invite you to be a champion in defeat. You made it further than so many people that tried to get to where you are. And if you came second or third or fourth or whatever it is after that, please celebrate your failure, your wonderful, wonderful, wonderful achievement in failing, because you may see it as failure, but it is a wonderful, wonderful achievement. And please don't be a sore loser, because that's like the shittiest version of ego that you can experience. Good luck to everybody who is going to be in Boston this weekend. I wish you the best luck. Have a wonderful experience there. I won't be there. Elixir has kept me in California. I hope that you start conversations about ego with yourself and with your teams. If you are an employer, I would love to invite you to start conversations with your teams about this. Start conversations with your co-workers if you're an employee about this subject, and observe each other. Observe the people in different cafes that you go to. When you go to cuppings, watch, you'll notice that the most professional people there have the most balanced ego. And it's something beautiful to watch. I learn from people all the time. My greatest mentors are the most humble and most assertive people, without being self-deprecating and without needing to be the most heard person in the room. So on that note, have a wonderful rest of your day, and peace, love, and peanut butter, friends.